This is the paint prep status video. Everything is ready for paint except for the doors for these cabinets. You can see it's all mudded, sanded, added some spacers here. This joint will be covered up. Got all this done nice and clean all along the ceiling. There's a couple spots there that need some extra attention, like here's pretty rough. We're gonna have to put some trim there, but I do need to take this panel off to put the backing on the light once it's painted. Got everything else nice. So this is all ready for paint. The big issue now, I also sanded all of these out. If you do use the same wood I use, sand as you go and watch out. I have so many splinters under my fingernails now. There's this like shiny coating on the top of these that was brutal. These doors are actually for the other side of the basement, but I made them along with this door for the overflow DVD shelves. It's all glued and you can see that there's brown splotches on it. I put wood filler over all the screw holes, over all the joints. Gonna use a palm sander to sand it all nice and smooth. So everything's ready to go. And because I'm using raw wood, you can see I kind of got started here before the video. I'm using a drywall primer and sealer. It's because I had it left over from the other side of the basement, but it's basically going to give the paint a base, something to adhere to. And I wanted to start with one of these panels because this brown board I used is smooth and a little shiny. So I didn't know if I was going to have to sand the whole thing. I was hoping not. I started sanding some of them, but I also don't want it to be textured. So now I'm basically just slopping this stuff on to give it a coat, and then I'll use a no-nap roller, maybe even a foam roller, to roll these, since I don't really want to spray in here, and I'm not spraying in the garage because that's where my vintage Camaro is being held. All of this is going to get primed, ceiling included, and given the cost of paint, I'm probably even going to paint the ceiling white, maybe even all the other sheetrock with the flat ceiling white paint. I have a ton of it left over. Then I'll go. We got blackout for the ceiling and binary star gray for all the panels. Really excited because that's always the biggest transformation in a project. Let's get to it. Everything has been primed. It's sticking a lot better to the panels than I thought it would. I have a couple areas that I have to redo some patching, but it should be good for paint tomorrow. Gotta give it some time to dry. Did the ceiling and everything, dropped the lights down to get right up to them. There's a couple little areas where the tape lifted, so I'll cut that out, repatch it first thing, ideally first thing in the morning, give it all day to dry, and then I can come down, quickly hit that, and get on with the paint. We got some progress. Ceiling is done. Bare color blackout, did behind the screen. I'm gonna have to cut holes for the speakers, but I'll paint the speaker grills flat black also. It's a flat finish. The sheen you see right now is just because I literally just finished after 3 hours. It's coming out nice. Did behind the battle map, nice and clean. And here's where it's drying, so you can see there's very, very little sheen. So in the projector, which will be shooting right below that, we'll have no reflection. A quick pointer when you're painting something like this with these kind of cutouts, you cannot recheck them enough for drips. That white spot right here was a drip I hadn't noticed, so I chipped it off with a knife. Re-roll it, but because the cutout, it's just going to collect paint. The same thing with the edges of anything like this. anything like these panels, just keep checking for drips, because you have a nice smooth finish now because I used foam, but I had to recheck this for drips hundreds of times. I got started painting these before I realized I hadn't done a recap in a while. These are the doors for the DVD cabinet that it's leaning up against. A nice 3/4 inch pine board. I put furring strips over it, and then I use wood filler on all the screw holes and everything. You can kind of see a good one there, and all the joints. Then use the palm sander to sand the entire thing, caulked in the edges so it's a nice finished look. Furring strips are not the best choice for this. It is a really cheap wood. They're mostly used for like spacers, but with it sanded down, it came out nice and smooth. I kind of wish I spent a little bit more on a better board, but I think with what I have planned for these, it's going to come out okay, especially with a couple coats of this gray paint on it. It should hide a lot of the imperfections. But I'm also putting gun rack mounts over it, and this is going to be my Star Wars armory walls. So after getting cut in a whole coat on the entire room, which I'm really happy with the outcome so far, I'm now going back through with this ridiculous spotlight, shine it on each panel individually, look at it from every different angle. You can see some wet spots. I'm just touching up anywhere that looks the slightest bit thin. It might be overkill because I'll probably never be in this kind of light again, but I'd rather do it right the first time than see things as I'm using the room or want to do upgrades in the room and I keep having to go back to the well. The other issue I ran into was, given that the ceiling is flat, even touching it with the back of my hand left dust marks or scuffs or something, so I'm basically gonna have to recut in and roll a good portion of the ceiling, which is unfortunate, but it'll get that nice deep black color that I was looking for. All right, one more walkthrough. Everything has 2 coats. All the cutting in is redone. All the insides of the cutouts are redone. Fixed a couple patches, had to do a couple more coats on there. Here's all the DVD cabinet doors with 2 coats. I will be painting the inside of the DVD cabinets. That's the very next thing to do. But at 9 hours of painting just today alone, I'm all set. These came out really nice. The second coat really adds a lot to it. For people who might not be as experienced painting, even if your paint, whatever paint you want to use, claims it covers in 1 coat, do 2 coats, you're going to have thin areas. At this angle, you can see a little bit of light coming through the crack. When I take the light panels off to put the backing on them, the diffuser, and bring the outlets further out, I'm going to be putting something in the back to block that light. But everything looks really, really good. I got a little obsessive, especially above the panels like this. I used one of these in gray and one of these in black to get the nice cut lines. I've fully renovated 12 houses and never hired a painter, so I've painted hundreds of thousands of square feet of wall, probably. Never used a detail brush that small. I'm also going to find a way to paint the track because that white really stands out, but painting with a regular paint it just kind of smears since it's metal. But even these bifold doors hide things nicely. I'm not going to be putting a handle on them because it's not something I'm going to have to access all the time. Just nice and clean. There it is.